Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever in the world you are. Welcome to Pep Talk, the podcast that gives you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God, where we take all these health and wellness and medical conversations and break them down into simple, digestible, understandable aspects and give you things you can do to take action steps to improve the quality of the health of yourself, your family, and ultimately your community. Hey, I'm Dr. Eric Naputi. I'm excited to be with you today to take you down this journey on our pep talk about gut health, about learning disabilities, and what you can do about it. I'm going to tell you, as a practicing physician, a functional medicine and a functional neurology doctor for the past 20 years, I see ADD, ADHD, I see dyslexia, I see learning disabilities, I see cognitive decline all the time. And it's so interesting to me when I see people how empowering it is once they understand the root cause of their problems and once they start taking action steps to repair the root cause, and the responses and results that we see are truly simply amazing. And the reality of it is, I also, on the other side, get so frustrated and I get so discouraged because of the lack of knowledge of other healthcare practitioners that are out there. The standard conventional treatments for things like learning disabilities is just absolutely, it's abominable. I mean, it's horrible what it is that we're dealing with. So I want to get into this conversation today, and I want you to understand that in recent years, there's been a growing body of research that links gut health to brain function, and specifically in the context of learning disabilities. So whether you're an adult with ADD, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, or whatnot, or if you're a child or raising children that have quote unquote learning concerns, I want you to pay attention to this podcast. While learning disabilities have traditionally been viewed as, well, through the lens of a neurological and cognitive issue, I want to talk about the emerging studies that show the critical connection between the gut health and how it plays with brain development and neurotransmitter production, which is huge. And the relationship of the brain gut and overall wellness and mental health and wellness truly is a conversation that is, it's a bicommunicational conversation between the brain and the gut that every one of us should be having on a regular basis. And in this conversation today, I'm going to explore the prevalence of learning disabilities. I'm going to talk about the 10 most common learning disabilities, some of the symptoms, and then finally, I'm going to discuss, some of the things that can be done to improve function of these individuals. So, the prevalence of learning disabilities, I've got some notes here. I want to read through these so that I don't miss anything. But learning disabilities are one of the most common problems that many people realize today. It affects hundreds of millions of people worldwide. According to the National Centers for Learning Disabilities, listen to this: 1 in 5 children globally have some type of learning and attention issues. Learning disabilities can manifest in various ways. Often, children's inabilities to read, write, or perform mathematic calculations, or really to process information. These disabilities do not only affect academic performance, but it negatively impacts social esteem and self-esteem and social interactions and emotional well-being. So it's the extra causes of learning disabilities are still being researched to this day, but the negative implications of someone at a young age having a learning disorder can lead to physical, chemical, and emotional stresses and really traumas that can be triggered as they get older, which can ultimately lead them to not be productive adults. And as a father and as a doctor who takes care of thousands of children, I think it is the job and responsibility of all of us as adults to understand how the body works and how we can best serve our children, making sure that they sleep proper, eat proper, exercise proper, have the right supplements, and really give them the best opportunity to have full expression of their life. And I know many of you would absolutely agree with this, but I need you to know that the exact cause of learning disabilities are still being researched. It's multi-causal factors that are contributing to this, but there's a massive amount of data that shows that genetic combinations, which is why it's so important to understand your genetic profile and code. Because if you have COMT genes or MTHFR genes, you're going to have a higher risk of learning disabilities. There are genes that are out there that actually, if they're not firing proper, cause you to have a higher chance of any of these learning issues that are out there. We know that there are environmental factors and biological factors that increase this, but one of the most powerful and critical factors that are out there is truly the gaining the knowledge of the brain-gut connection, which in my opinion it's the most applicable aspect of this conversation and what I'm going to focus the most on today. But I'm going to give you 10 of the top learning disabilities and some of their symptoms. Some of you might have some of these and don't even know you're dealing with it, which I'm going to tell you is a telltale sign that there's something going on in the brain-gut connection, whether it's a problem with the bacteria in your gut, whether you have leaky gut and dysbiosis, or it's a problem somewhere in your vagus nerve system, which is the brain-gut connection. So, number one, dyslexia. Dyslexia symptoms are difficulty reading, trouble spelling, challenging with words, recognition, and problem decoding text. I personally suffer from a level of dyslexia. And I will tell you that when I don't sleep well, I don't take my right nutrients, and I don't eat according to my DNA lifestyle, it is much harder for me to function reading, writing, and doing mathematics. But I will tell you, when I am on point with those things, it makes a massive difference. Two of my children are in the same position. When they're eating well, sleeping well, doing well, they're doing good in school. They're getting good results. Their learning processing disorders don't show up because it's all about the genetic predisposition. And if your genes are problematic, like my family has methylated gene issues, we have COMT issues. So if we eat gluten and we have rice, breads, pastas, we have processed foods, we have glyphosates, we have synthetic B vitamins, we're going to have an increase in our symptoms, and dyslexia being one of them. Another one is dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is poor handwriting, difficulty organizing thoughts on paper, trouble with spelling, and inconstant letter sizes and spacing. I also deal with dysgraphia. Many of you probably deal with it as well. You don't just have sloppy handwriting. It's a neurological processing issue, problem with the brain and gut. Here's another one, auditory processing disorder. This one is huge. Man, I learned about this probably 17 years ago. My son's 19 right now. When he was 2, we were having issues with him learning and communicating back. You probably have this as well. Let me give you an example of this. How many of you know, I'm going to give you an example of a kid in school. Let's call him Little Johnny. Little Johnny's a child in school. Little Johnny is being told by his teacher to hand in his homework. Little Johnny's being told that, but he doesn't process it. It takes him a little longer to hear it. So the teacher says, Johnny, it's time to turn in your homework. Johnny doesn't hear her and doesn't process it. She says again, Johnny, it's time to turn in your homework. Little Johnny doesn't hear her or process her. Now the teacher says, little Johnny, I've told you 3 times now, turn in your homework. Why are you being so insubordinate? You're getting a detention. You're going to the principal's office. And little Johnny's like, what the hell is going on? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's literally a delayed auditory processing. 2 of my children deal with that. So listen, many of you have this going on. It's difficulty processing and understanding spoken language, trouble following verbal communications, and sensitivity to background noise. I deal with that. But the tighter I am on my foods, my supplements, living my genetic lifestyle like I'm supposed to, those go away. So when you're under stress, don't stress. Organize your life around what you should be doing. Here's another one, nonverbal learning disorder. Symptoms of this are difficulty with nonverbal communication, challenges with motor skills, poor concentration, and trouble interpreting body language. Normally what happens is if somebody has any of the other learning disorders where they have learning process delays, they usually compensate by being more physically active. We find out that a lot of athletes have dyslexia. A lot of athletes and high-performing individuals have problems with auditory processing because they learn how to read the room. They learn how to accommodate, and that becomes a superpower for them. What if there was a way you could keep your superpower and raise the ability of your body to function on some of those other processes? Some other ones are ADD, ADHD. So inattention, hyperactivity, impulsiveness, trouble focusing, like these are things that are commonly out there. And most of the research now is pointing to a problem with the gut, a problem with the vagus nerve and the brain gut connection. What else? Language processing disorders. A lot of people have this. People having trouble with spoken languages, they struggle with vocabulary and they have trouble understanding the meaning of words, or they have trouble hearing in accents. Let's say you're American, but you're speaking Spanish and we can't understand because you're saying the right word, but the accent is off. Or if you're Eastern European and you're speaking English, but your accent's off and you can't process that, that's this disorder. What about executive function disorder? This is trouble planning, organizing, time management, problem solving, and having, troubles regulating your emotions. Here's another one: visualizing processing disorders, difficulty interpreting visual information, trouble understanding spatial order, trouble understanding visual memory and pattern problems. And then dyspraxia, it's difficulty with motor coordination. It's trouble with balance. You find a lot of times humans that have trouble with physical coordination are really excelling a lot of times with some type of learning because they know, okay, well, I need to do better at something else. So their body adapts of what they're good at. While these learning disabilities, by the way, have different manifestations, I will tell you that they share a common link, and that's the brain gut connection. And I've done many podcasts before on the brain gut and inflammation and gut bacteria, and you need to go and watch those because that's where it's at. The brain gut connection, the microbiome is the key. There are trillions of bacteria and viruses and fungi that live in our digestive tract, that live in our skin, our eyes, our nose, our ears, our mouth, that protect us. And there are literally hundreds times, even thousands times more genetic expression from those bacteria that positively or negatively affect our human performance than our own genetic human cells do. It's amazing. Research shows that gut microbiome, the bacteria, influences brain development, mood regulation, cognitive abilities. This is largely because of the gut produces neurotransmitters like serotonin, which is our happiness neurotransmitter. If your gut's off, you ain't going to be happy. And by the way, if you're not happy, you're sad. If you're sad, you're living in fear. Like that's the normal process of that. And a lot of it could really come down to the gut bacteria and serotonin. Think about this. Dopamine production, which is a serious problem, that if we don't have the proper amount of dopamine production in the body, it can lead to us having to do things to get that dopamine hit. Doom scrolling on social media, sex, drugs, rock and roll, addiction, whatever type of thing, right? To get that dopamine hit comes from the gut. What about GABA? When there's imbalances in these neurotransmitters, it causes an increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and dementia, Alzheimer's, and insomnia. I mean, it's really quite amazing. In fact, approximately 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. That's the happiness neurotransmitter. When the gut microbiome is imbalanced, the condition is called dysbiosis. The production of these neurotransmitters is disrupted, and it leads to cognitive and behavioral issues. Dysbiosis has been linked to a range of neurological and psychological disorders, including anxiety, depression, and other learning disabilities like the list I just gave you before. It's because the imbalance of the microbiome leads to chronic inflammation, and a leaky gut causes a leaky brain. And when you have a leaky gut, you have inflammation, which passes the brain-blood barrier and causes inflammation in the brain. And that's how it causes leaky gut causes learning disabilities. It can be a huge correlation between the gut and learning disabilities. It's becoming increasingly clearer and clearer on how that works. And when the gut is healthy, it can deal with inflammation in the brain. And it can help positively affect cognitive function and attention and memory and problem solving and the key skills required to, well, be a productive human being. Additionally, certain bacteria in the gut microbiome produce what's called short-chain fatty acids. And these short-chain fatty acids have a major anti-inflammatory response and primarily are affected by bifidobacterium and lactobacillus in the body. I mean, I could give you story after story after story about this. I mean, I'll tell you that I've seen men, women, and children snap out of some of the the most absurd neurological and psychological symptoms by simply changing their lifestyle and getting their gut bacteria balanced out. And what process did they go through to do that? Well, they figured out their genetic lifestyle. They took testing to find out, are they methylators? Do they have COMT genes? How does their body handle certain foods and nutrients? And how should they sleep? And how should they exercise? The Biolimitless Discovering DNA test does that, then gives you a lifestyle to follow, then eating for that. Then having the right fiber and prebiotics in your diet, having a probiotic. Like I use the Master Microbiotics formula that we created, and that formula uses spore-based microbes that are necessary for the production of those neurotransmitters for our brain to reduce the inflammation. This is so common sense. The problem is you've been lied to and disenfranchised by the current supposed healthcare system that your doctor should be telling you. Your doctor doesn't know this stuff. If they did, they would share with you. And by the way, if someone says there's no data to support this, they're an idiot and they should do a DNA test and they should get on the Master Microbiotics so they can get their damn brain working like it's supposed to. Stop taking advice from folks that don't know what health is. I'm sorry, I just get so fired up about it, but it's so disruptive. So what are bacteria that you should be looking for in a probiotic? Let me give you a list. Write this down. Lactobacillus acidophilus W22 is the name of one. It supports gut-brain barrier function and positively affects brain function. Lactobacillus plantarum W1 and W21. These strains are known for their anti-inflammatory properties, their ability to improve cognitive function, and it supports the production of neurotransmitters. Bifidobacterium lactis, W51 and W52. These are different strains. These strains help balance the gut microbiome, reduce gut inflammation, and support mental clarity and focus. This is what you should be doing. Knowledge is power, but wisdom is taking that knowledge and applying it to your life. People perish without lack of knowledge. Don't let the lack of knowledge of your doctors or anybody that you're seeing and talking to dictate the level of health or care that you receive. There is a correlation and a causation, and the research clearly shows it, between learning disorders and the learning disorders that I've shared with you and gut microbiome and inflammation. And yes, there are peptides that can help with this. Peptides like BPC-157, peptides like CMAX, and peptides like C-Link that are neurotropic in nature, can help stimulate the brain, reduce inflammation, help the body heal. But I'm telling you, you cannot out-supplement a poor lifestyle. You should run a genetic test to find out how you should eat, how you should sleep, what's your daily routine look like. And then based off of that, you can make some true long-term changes. But don't just take my word for it. Do it. But commit to it. Commit to a minimum of 6 months to change your life. And in 6 weeks, you'll notice a difference. In 90 days, you feel like a different person. In 6 months, you'll go, I can't believe how far I've come. But it takes a couple years to regrow the good bacteria. It takes a couple years to regenerate good organs. It takes a couple years to get your body to do what it's supposed to do. So give your body the grace and patience that it deserves. It took you a long time to get screwed up. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get it fixed. So folks, I want you to go back, watch this podcast, share it with your friends and family. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share to our channel on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you share this info. This is info that everybody needs to get. Everybody needs to have. The problem is that knowledge is suppressed because they don't want you to know the truth. Keeping you fat, sick, and nearly dead makes a lot of money for a lot of people. When I'm not interested in that, I'm interested in giving you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. So go to our website. That's peptalk.world, peptalk.world. Share us with your friends and family. Pay attention to all the information we're putting out. And remember, the truth will set you free. And folks, until we meet again, I'm Dr. Eric Naputi. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless the world. Stay smart out there. And I'll see you next time. Be well.